This podcast is brought to you by Rebecca Cassells of the Rising Dawn series. Do you like violence? Do you like smut? Are you tired of the stereotypical novels of werewolf romance out there and want something a little bit different? Then pick up Sparked Revolution, Book 1 in the Rising Dawn series by Rebecca Cassells. Available on Amazon, in Kindle and paperback. You too can become a sponsor of Stories, The True and the Fictional by heading on over to buymeacoffee.com/STTATF or follow the link in the show notes. Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Stories, The True and the Fictional. It is another great interview episode. Ryan, are you raring to go?
I am, mate. I am, and even though you didn't ask me, I'd just like to say that I'm living the dream at the moment.
Okay.
You know,
Okay,
just,
cool. We're going
I've
to put that on a
stolen your
t-shirt.
catchphrase,
Yes.
and absolutely living the dream right now.
Cool. I'll try and think of a new one for you to steal. But anyway, guys, before we dive in, remember to check out our sponsors, Rebecca Cassells, Martin Kearns. We've got some great books out for different genres. Rebecca Cassells is werewolf romance. And,
Spicy werewolf romance.
yeah, spicy werewolf romance.
If you like spice, and if you're a Star Wars fan and you're a fan of the spice trades, and you're also a fan of werewolves, then that's the book for you. The series is the book for you. I've read a little bit of it, and I don't get embarrassed much, but yeah, very very spicy.
Oh my! Yeah, but it's because she's
I got my
modeled,
church fan out and everything. I'm like, ooh.
it's because she's modeled one of the characters of Henry Cavill though. So you know, and that's yeah.
That gives me a tingle in my loins.
Yeah. And then Martin Kearns has a great series called The Valor of Valhalla.
Yes.
It's urban fantasy. It's really cool.
It really is. I've read the two books twice now, which is good because I think I own them 4 times over because when I find something I like to get it in all mediums. Like I've got the books, I've got the digital copies as well. But yeah, definitely if you're a fan of fantasy and with a slight twinge of it is because he is a bit of a horror writer too. So it is a bit dark too. But yeah, definitely check it out. Both books are amazing.
100%. Now that the promo's done, let's bring in our guest, Jonathan Weiss. Thank you for joining us.
Val, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You
Is
came
that how you
pilot.
say it? Is it Weiss or is it Weiss? We didn't.
No, you got it right the first time. I'm used
Okay.
to people butchering it.
Because I saw the name and I'm like, oh, Weiss bars. You know the
Yeah.
ice cream ice block bars. You know.
The thing we used to make here.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were my favourites, and I they were special occasion bars for me back when I was growing up because they used to be more expensive than your paddle pops and your
It was
icy
the fancy
pops and
stuff, right?
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, exactly. It's like I feel like putting on a suit and a top hat when I was having a Weiss bar. So
Yeah.
but yeah, Jamie normally asks how you pronounce the name, so I just thought I'd jump in.
No, you got it right the first time. You didn't even need to ask.
I
Well
did
done.
check. I did check. He's been on other podcasts, so I did check out other.
Oh,
And
Well,
I saw
as you know, all of
I
our
saw a
meetings happen on the
consistency.
Yeah.
I saw a consistency of the name. But I'm wondering if now there's kind of like a metaphor. Does this mean like a Weiss bar, our guest Weiss, will be special and a special occasion, or is that what you're going for there, Ryan?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to put on the suit now, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a
I
second.
haven't
No.
got my suit here, and I've left my top hat at home, so
Yeah.
I can't quite dress up.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Anyway, before we get too crazy, the first question of the entire show is, other than how do we pronounce your name, who is Jonathan Weiss?
Yeah, so I'm a self-published Australian indie author. I write a bizarre blend of science fiction and fantasy because I honestly think they're one and the same. I've been published for about 2 and a bit years now, but I've been writing for about 10. Actually, no, more even. But it does mean that I've had practice, right? I've eventually figured this out. I've got about 5 books out at the moment. I'm coming up on number 6. And yeah, I've taken this dive into self-publishing because I really loved having all this control over how it gets made and edited and all the cover art, and then actually being able to get out and sell it to people myself rather than just having this abstract thing where I have to pass it off to other people.
Yeah. We are 100% alike. I just, I've gone down the self-publishing path myself, and I'm really loving it because it's
Hmm.
like I did have one book done with a publisher, and even though it was pretty much a completed thing, they still wanted to tweak things and move things around, and I'm going like, but it's
So
my
annoying,
vision.
right?
It's my
Yeah.
vision,
I'm right. I didn't write a book just to have
Yeah,
someone else tell me how to do it,
yeah.
I want that control.
If I want it to be rubbish, then it can be rubbish. It's like,
Yeah.
but it's my rubbish. Um, anyway, let's dive into these icebreakers that we give all our guests. Assuming that you want to take the first one, Ryan, because of the pattern of the questions.
I am just having a look. Yes, I will take the first one this time. Even though we've said that the icebreakers a million times before, I still forget what they are
Yeah.
sometimes. So, yes, I will take the first one. So, let's dive right in. If you could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be? And we don't like any of this, like, oh, let's get rid of hate, or let's get rid of, we want you to be selfish. Something
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you don't want in this world anymore, aside from the usual, like hate and all the bad things. We can assume they've already been taken out.
Yeah. Let's assume someone's done the hard work,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I want to get rid of bananas. I
awesome. I'm on
despise,
board.
I'm repulsed by bananas. I cannot be in the same room as one.
Me too.
I can't understand it. I've always been like this. I've got relatives who are like this as well. But if I were to just banish one thing from the earth, I think the world would be a lot more peaceful if there just weren't bananas. Just get rid of them.
I will agree 1 trillion%. Are you weird like me and you like banana paddle pops or banana milk? Okay,
Nah,
I
that's
like
weird.
banana
That's weird.
milk. I like banana milk, like the oak banana, milk. I like banana paddle pops, even though I don't have very many of them nowadays, but I cannot stand bananas. I
Can't
don't
do
like
the
the
real
look of
thing.
them. I don't like the taste of them. I just
They're just
cannot.
freaky, man. I
Yeah,
don't get what their deal is.
yeah. I just something that looks like that. It just and you have to peel the skin off.
Oh no, don't say it. Don't
I'm
say it.
just like,
You're
nah.
gonna repulse me. I'm gonna puke.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that.
But
Perfect.
what if it's the one thing that's holding back the monkeys? Like
So be it.
Let
I'll
them
deal with
hum.
it. Leave it to me.
We'll just
I
all move to America, buy AK-47s, wipe them all out.
okay.
Brilliant.
I mean, I can see a whole bunch of monkeys just knocking on your door now, just going.
They've got words to say to me. Yeah.
I don't know why they're like this, but they're like, you took away our bananas.
I mean, isn't that the plot of every Donkey Kong game as well?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, it kind of is actually. Now that you're mentioning that, the old school
I'm the
Donkey
villain in a
Kong
Donkey
games.
Kong
Yeah.
game. I'm happy
Oh
with
look,
that.
they were good games back in the day, but I could
Yeah.
live without them if it meant no bananas.
Yeah.
And I think saying that all monkeys like bananas is a
No,
bit
Bit of a
it's
generalization.
specious.
Yeah.
yeah,
They like
it's
other things.
it's
Yeah,
not
so
even
They're
I
true,
deep
think
and complex creatures. Yeah.
you don't want to get us cancelled, Jamie.
No.
Like I think if we take away bananas, it'll get rid of the potassium from their diet, but they can find other substitutes, you know what I mean? So I think we'll be okay. I think we
Okay.
can definitely get on board with that.
Okay.
So Donald Trump, if you're listening, you're doing
Tariff on
so well so
bananas.
far, champ. Get on the banana bandwagon and get those bad boys out of circulation.
All right. What's something on your bucket list?
Yeah, so look, once we get into talking about the books, you'll realize that I'm very obsessed with deserts. The main one I want to go to is I want to go to Nevada in America. I want to go to
Oh,
Nevada in Utah and see all the Great Plains, the Grand Canyons, and all that. But there's this one art installation called City, where a guy's just spent years and years almost constructing these big, absurd kind of concrete structures, just these very basic shapes, but they're so large in this one valley, just almost as like a facsimile of civilization. But obviously, no one can live there because it's all this solid concrete. But if you look it up, like the city art installation in Nevada, you'll see these giant structures, and I think they're just awe-inspiring. So that's a slightly more serious answer than before, but my bucket list is to go see something like that.
Cool.
no, that's good. Like I can definitely see that. Most of the other guests we have on, obviously not from Australia, and they all say that they want to come out here to Australia is on their bucket list. And that's when we begin to tell them about everything that can kill them out here. And then they, some of them change their minds.
Yeah, you don't get to do that bit of the podcast segment with me. We got to feel for this. You got to tell me about all the things in America that can kill me instead.
All right, okay.
Exactly.
Let's
like America have got guns that can kill you, and those kind of things. We just have animals that we actually don't control that can kill you. All the spiders, which I can't stand, and snakes and scorpions, and you name it, we've got it.
I think the Americans got the grizzly. The grizzly's a pretty scary thing. I don't know what I'd do if I ran across a grizzly,
Yeah, maybe throw a brown snake at it or something.
Yeah, there you go.
But then you'd have to smuggle a brown snake through customs, and
that's a whole other thing.
Why have you got a snake in your?
In case of bears.
In case of bears.
Yeah, exactly. Can't you just say in case I encounter a grizzly?
Yeah.
And that's I'm being prepared. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a solid. No, but I like your answer. I think that's good. I think there's especially when it comes to deserts and I believe deserts and the underwater, like a lot of it is not really explored as it should be. And I think that there's something quite attractive about the open, endless space. You know what I mean? And I think that is a really good answer to have. I think that's something that I would like to do. I'd always wanted to go see the Grand Canyon, in America, and I think that'd be really good. A very good answer. So far, so good. Getting rid of bananas and visiting deserts. I like it.
There we go.
Okay, now this is the question that I will judge. Now, what you've come to learn, and our listeners will, if they don't know by now, even though I took a couple of months off the podcast, Jamie is more, he's thinks about his answers and he's like yourself, he's a writer, so he knows how to express himself in a way where things might come out a lot better. Whereas I don't have a filter between my mouth and my brain. I am the one who, if we were to get cancelled, it would be my fault. I tend to just say what I think. So this answer.
This is where we get the judgment.
Definitely determine if the interview continues or not.
Oh.
So it's kind of like a screening process for a job interview, like I'm going through your resume. So far, so good.
This is the background check. This is it. Have I committed any crimes here?
Yeah, so no pressure. But so this can be a two-parter. So what is the greatest sitcom ever made? And if that is not your favorite sitcom, what is your favorite?
I think I reckon the greatest sitcom ever made. I reckon it's Scrubs. Great setting, great characters. I think that they also get, apparently all the medical stuff is actually on point. It's actually one of the most accurate shows as far as medical stuff goes. But I think it's a show that really managed to sustain itself properly for 8 seasons and still not run out of character development. Because you see this with a lot of other sitcoms where the first 2 seasons, they do all the character development, and the character development is a pattern of reveals. It's revealing the backgrounds about the character rather than having them move forward. Scrubs, it has them move forward. So, it's a really good show that, can keep a sustainable energy for itself. I don't know if it is my favorite, though. I think my favorite personally is Third Rock from the Sun. Because it's you got John Lithgow, you got a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it as well, which is just hysterical to see him that tiny. Yeah. But there's just so much energy in those performances. Like, it's something that really gets you hooked.
Oh, you sold me on Scrubs because I flipping love Scrubs.
Jamie.
I also love that you didn't reference season 9.
No, we don't talk about that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Doesn't exist. Yeah. I feel like the season 9 and 10 of Scrubs is what was it? It's on Apple TV. It's that therapy show with Harrison Ford.
Oh, Shrinking.
Yes.
Shrinking, that's it. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah,
I think that's the extension of Scrubs because it's still Bill Lawrence. It's still Zach Braff directing as well. So I think it's just that same energy continued along.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very rare that I find. So I've tried to get Jamie onto Shrinking because I know Jamie got me into Scrubs when we first met. And I still haven't finished it, but it is on my bucket list to do. And then Jamie got me into Ted Lasso, which is Bill Lawrence, and that is one of my all-time favorite shows of all time. And I'm just turning 43 in the next 11 days or something.
Wow.
And
Yeah, happy birthday then.
Oh, thanks, man. Ted Lasso is, to me, the perfect 3 seasons of a show. And then when Bill Lawrence finished that and he went on to do Shrinking, I started watching Shrinking because I love Jason Segel. I absolutely love Harrison Ford. So that got me in the door, and Bill Lawrence, of course. And I told Jamie about it. And I've just finished season 2. And my favorite character of all time in Ted Lasso is Roy Kent, the guy that plays Roy Kent. And when he showed up in season 2 of Shrinking, and something I didn't tell Jamie, the janitor from Scrubs is in season 2 of Shrinking as Harrison Ford's best friend. I was really, really shocked when he appeared in season 2. So there's another reason to watch it. But
well, they've worked together before as well, Harrison Ford and that janitor. They were both in Fugitive.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The janitor, he's actually one of the cops. Like later in the movie on the train, he's the one who corners Kimball, goes Kimball with a gun, and then he gets knocked out by something. Yeah, that's him.
And there's a whole episode on Scrubs about it.
Yeah,
really?
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. No, well, honestly, those answers, I 100% get behind it because I've watched the first 4 seasons of Scrubs and I absolutely love it. And that episode with Brendan Fraser, no matter how many times I watch it, it absolutely...
it's a heartbreaker, isn't it?
Oh, man, seriously.
Yeah.
I used to get emotional with a lot of TV shows, not so much now, but that one still gets me pretty much with a couple of tears.
Yeah.
100%. And Third Rock from the Sun, you're totally right about. I grew up on that as well. And, a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt, seeing what he's done in his career is absolutely amazing. And John Lithgow, man, seriously, that guy, I've gone from watching him in Third Rock from the Sun and then watching him in Dexter as a serial killer. That guy has so much range, it's not funny, but when he is in Third Rock from the Sun, he just cracks me up every episode. Not a dull episode, no filler, no nothing. So
he's the best.
Oh, 100%. So the interview will continue.
Yes.
Based on those 2 answers. One for Jamie, one for me. I think we're sweet.
Yes. Awesome. Done. Well done. Okay, what's your zombie apocalypse plan?
Look, I mean, again, I feel like you get some very different answers depending whether or not you're in America, right? Just because you got to have access to firearms. Like the closest thing I have to a firearm is I've got the Mad Max shotgun that I've 3D printed.
Oh, nice.
So it has a little red cap on it, so it is legal. I'm not going to menace anyone with it. But yeah, that's the closest thing I have to a firearm, but that's very obviously not one. So I'm going to leave that aside. Look, zombie apocalypse, I think the most important thing is you got to make a lot of friends, and you got to make sure that no one's backstabbing each other. I haven't watched The Walking Dead, but I know it's 10 seasons of just human-driven drama from what I've heard. Yeah. I feel like zombie apocalypses go a lot smoother if you just stop trying to stab everyone in the back. Yeah. Now, granted, I can't stop myself from getting stabbed in the back, but I'm going to hope that I'm such a nice guy that people, they'd rather stab me in the front at least. I want to see it coming.
Get some nice back armor.
Yeah, exactly. Get a turtle shell, get a carapace on.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I always say this. If it was, if we're in Australia when the zombie apocalypse happens, I would always go to Bunnings. And because they have, you've got unlimited weapons. No guns, obviously, because we don't really have guns in Australia. But you've got, chainsaws, you've got axes, you've got pretty much anything in Bunnings you can turn into a weapon. And then I had that thing where I was like, well, what about food? And then you notice in Bunnings, they always have that little cafe in the corner that no one ever goes to. That I've been into Bunnings a lot and I've never seen anyone eating in that cafe. And so I figured you got at least 6 months to a year's worth of food from that cafe. So as long as you're by yourself, you can last at least a year. And hopefully by the end of the year, the initial influx of zombies would have kind of spread out across the country. And, then I can start venturing out. Because Bunnings are always kind of near shops and stuff.
It's always somewhere, yeah. I reckon I want to make a slight modification to that plan. I don't reckon you go to Bunnings. I I reckon you need to go to a smaller hardware store because Bunnings is too much ground for one man to cover. You need to go to like one of the little Mitre 10s.
Yeah, like the
So you go to
Mitre
one of those,
10s,
you
yeah.
still have all the tools. I don't know if you had the
Mhm.
food from the cafe, but I think it would be an easier way to kind of shack down a home base to actually really secure it.
Yeah, you're right, because Bunnings have like hundreds of
It's
aisles
big.
and stuff like that.
It's
Yeah,
big.
And let's face it,
yeah,
everyone's going to Bunnings.
Everyone's going
yeah.
to Bunnings.
There's an entire Facebook group that is dedicated to when the zombie apocalypse happens, meet me at Bunnings. You know, it's
Oh, really? Is there?
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I'm not. For one, I'm not a part of that. I will have to look
I
that
thought
up
you'd
and
be a
like confirm
moderator
it.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
If it's not active, just get it going, Ryan. Because like
Yeah, mate.
that was like probably 10 years ago that came
Yeah,
when
it's been a
Facebook
bit.
groups were big. You know,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
there might be a new plan. You know,
But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
no,
Mitre
that
10.
makes sense. Like a Mitre 10 or a smaller hardware. Like it's a shame that Masters sort of died out after a
Yeah.
few years. The whole Woolworths version. But yeah, Mitre 10 or something like that is a little bit smaller, or your home hardware.
yeah, do home hardware. You know
Home
why?
hardware would be good.
Why is that?
Because our mutual friend Matthew Holmes did the animation for the ads.
Oh, there you
Really?
go.
Yeah.
That's a
Wow.
reason.
Yeah, we got
That's
a
a
friend. We got
reason
a
to
friend
get
friend of
onto
the
that.
show who's a brilliant filmmaker, and he started in stop motion. So he did a few of the Smacko ads,
That's
uh,
phenomenal.
the home hardware ads, and now he does like really good, dramatic films.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you probably would have worked on Memoir of a Snail with Adam Elliott, right? Because that's probably the big kind of stop motion production I heard of coming through.
Yeah, well, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
His name's Matthew Holmes, and
I'll look him up.
he yeah, I know he's done stop motion. He started in stop motion and then changed to film.
Mm.
I don't think he liked stop motion all that much because of how tedious it was.
Yeah, I did start in there when I was about 12, and I don't think I would have had the same quality. I wasn't doing the Smackos ad,
No.
but yeah, geez, it is tedious. It is slow paced.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like didn't it take the guy who did Wallace and Gromit like I think it was like 4 years for one episode or something. That's ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
Yep, it would be. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, polish
Oh, I
it
guess
off.
my turn now. Now, this is the question we have to rebrand because
It was
it
getting
used to
too
be
political.
an Elon Musk question, but he's kind of taken too much power, and we're worried that he might
Yeah,
have
he's
like
not a
a
good guy.
Google alert set up.
And
for
the
his,
whole I'll just
his
quickly say
name.
like the whole because we made the question before like 3 years ago, 4 years
Yeah.
ago.
Before he's a crazy
And,
person,
and,
right?
and the idea was if anyone was to make a time machine, it would be Elon Musk and it would be, electric,
Yeah.
That was the
Like a
premise behind
Tesla,
it.
a Tesla, but with like a flux capacitor in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So
But
now we
yeah,
have
now he's become too political
yeah.
and well, let's face it, too close to becoming a super villain.
His brain's
Like,
microwaved.
Well, we always say me, Jamie, and our mutual friend Chris that Elon Musk is one bad day away from becoming the world's first supervillain.
Yeah,
Like-
probably.
Yeah, so we decided to change. Well, Jamie decided to change his question. So now Bill and Ted arrive outside your house
Quality dudes.
in their phone booth time machine and say, "Whoa, dude! Rufus asked us to give you a free ride in our phone booth time machine. Where do you go?"
Oh, see, like, and I'm sure the predictable answer is back. Like, people want to see things. I do want to go forward. Again, like, this is ending up being, this is the bit that's going to be a bit of a self plug anyway. Like, a lot of the kind of core concept of my books is like 100,000 years in the future. What's left of us? Like, it's only been about 5,000 years since, the time of, I guess, quote unquote, the ancient Egyptians. So, since the time that the pyramids of Giza got built, and that's kind of what's left. But like, again, you say 5,000 years after us, are all our skyscrapers still going to be standing? Like, what's left of what remains of us, and what will the people of the future think of us? I want to see how that gets rediscovered and reinterpreted, So, yeah, I want to go as far forward as they possibly can go, and I want to see what happens.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and it's been a while since I've watched Bill and Ted. Do they need to, like, does someone need to have been to that time for them to go, or do they just need to dial it into the phone?
I think they just
can't
dial it
remember.
in, man. Yeah, I think they just end up there.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
very loose system of time travel.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I think the movie came out in the late 80s, early
89,
90s. So yeah,
89.
yeah. So okay, no, that's look.
I want to go forward.
we get so many people wanting to go back in the past, but like I always say, why do you want to go back and the things we already know? Why not go to the future where we don't know?
Yeah.
And you can come back and people might think you're crazy, but at least it'll give you a hell of a book. You know what I mean?
Right. That's it. No, I just want to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole intrigue of people going back is because there's certain things that we don't know, and that you got puzzles you can solve, I mean, they think they know who Jack the Ripper is now, but back then you didn't. You could have gone back and solved who Jack the Ripper was, That
would be a fun time.
Oh, I'd like to go and see who killed JFK. And that's why I actually like Trump, because he's releasing the files on the JFK. And look, they'll probably be heavily redacted, but at least there'll be a little bit more information out there. But I'm a big JFK nut. Like I want to know.
He's a guy. I feel like the disappointing thing would be you go back to see it, and it is exactly how it's said to be. Like, yeah, it is Lee Harvey Oswald in the box depository. That's exactly what happened. You're like, oh, I wasted the trip. I think if you're doing kind of crazy stuff like that, you got to do Roswell, New Mexico. You got to do Area 51, man.
You got to do something big.
Do your X-Files stuff.
To be honest, I'm a big X-Files fan, but to be honest, I there's something about the JFK assassination. Like, I've watched documentary after documentary after documentary, all the movies on it, everything. I've read multiple books on it. Everything that I can put my hands on, I want. And there is actually definitive proof that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't kill JFK.
Really?
And you know where you can find that proof? I think I've told this story before, but do you know where you can find that proof, Jonathan?
Where?
In JB Hi-Fi.
Yeah.
And really? I'm not even joking. If you go to JB Hi-Fi and you buy there's a certain collector's edition of JFK, the movie with Kevin Costner, that has a documentary on it. Now, this documentary was, this, as I said, came out a long time ago, but they actually have footage. Now, Lee Harvey Oswald said in one of his very few interviews before Jack Ruby killed him that he was across town, like definitely away from the presidential parade, away from the book depository for sure, standing out the front of a bank vestibule, drinking a bottle of Coke. And he swears by that, like he didn't get many.
That's Alva, yeah.
Now, on this particular collector's edition, there is footage of the whole area. There is one scene where they go past that bank, and there is a man out the front drinking a bottle of Coke, and experts have actually enhanced that footage and confirmed at 99.9% that it is Lee Harvey Oswald.
Well, no wonder no one's found that out, because no one's buying DVDs at JB Hi-Fi anyway. That's the problem.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's exactly right, because, who's going into JB Hi-Fi to buy a copy of, the DVD? Nowadays, we just stream everything, or we acquire them on the high seas, as we say, by piracy. But yeah, I found that out. I can't take credit for that. There's a very famous Australian actor by the name of Lockie Hume, who he's a bigger JFK nut than I am. He's actually travelled over to the States and physically measured up things in that area. He's full on.
He's the guy,
and he actually came across that. And everyone thought he was joking, and he said, "No, I honestly, I have." He goes, "I have that particular Blu-ray," and he's seen that, and he said, "Yeah, that's definitely him." So,
yeah, it's crazy, man.
I mean, we all know that he didn't do it by now. We all know. Well, we don't all know, but I purely believe that it was CIA. CIA did it because of the whole Cuban Missile Crisis. The fact that he wasn't, because Lyndon Johnson, who was the president that came in after JFK got shot, was all for dealing with Cuba and dealing with, opening up the trade routes again and everything like that. Whereas
JFK was too much of a wild card, huh?
JFK was like, no, there's not that, and he was very vocal about that, and that was the problem. But yeah, anyway, it's not the JFK Conspiracy Podcast. It is the podcast about you.
That's next week. Next week's JFK.
Yeah.
You're interviewing him.
Look, I could talk about JFK for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and more hours on top of that. But
This podcast is brought to you by Martin Kearns and the Valor of Valhalla series. In the battle between two ancient evils, can one naive young man become the last hope against powerful creatures of legend? Beneath the Veil is the gripping first book in the Valor of Valhalla dark urban fantasy series. If you like reluctant heroes, infernal myths, and bloody epic clashes, then you'll love Martin Kearns' formidable foray into the unknown. So head on over to readkearns.com and grab yourself a copy of Beneath the Veil today.
So look, let's start by diving into why you're actually here. So tell us about your writing journey. How did you get started in writing? I believe you're a full-time author. Is that correct?
Yeah, to a degree. Like, I have actually, I've recently started working at JB Hi-Fi just casually to, just something to do. So I am speaking to the fact that no one's buying DVDs from JB Hi-Fi.
There you go.
Yeah,
I
can get the staff discount on it. But yeah, so look, it has been largely full-time for the past 2 years. To go further back, so I'm 30 now. I've been writing since I was about 15. And yeah, as with all people who start writing when they're 15, there is a book that I worked on for many of my teenage years, which will never see the light of day. And then the stuff after that slowly became the stuff that I'm publishing. So yeah, when I turned about 20 or 21, I figured out like the world of the Droughtlands, which is where all my books are set. And you know, if you want to think of what it is, just think Mad Max with magic. That's the very brief way I do it, just because you know, you're thinking about desert dunes, you're thinking about all these buried skyscrapers, and then all this weird magic buried underneath that people shouldn't mess with, but they just keep doing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a plot. So I figured that out when I was about kind of in my early 20s, and like I played with it on and off, and it was only like in the past couple of years where I figured out how to make a couple of stories really click in. And then, you know, as I kind of moved towards that and finished them, I realized a lot of the themes of one of the books was about kind of autonomy and control. And that's why I decided to go on a self-publishing journey. And, you know, I had a tech sales job before this. So I was selling cloud licenses and stuff, which was profitable, but very dull. So I quit that and, you know, dedicated myself to writing full time just to see how many books I could churn out as fast as possible. And geez, it's a hard thing. Like I hear about indie authors who are churning out like 4 or 5 books a year, but it's not something I could do because, you know, I it's not that I'm sledging those other authors, but I don't want to disrespect the quality of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thinking that goes into these books. They're very intricate things. Like even the most recent one I've been writing has just been an endless logic puzzle of one big existential crisis going onwards for the character. So yeah, like that's been the writing journey. So it's been very fun, like writing and publishing those books. And then a lot of the ways to sell them has really come through a lot of success, like in-person markets. So again, I've got a lot of sales experience, so I'm very used to talking to people and kind of pitching people the books. So I found going there and doing those a lot easier than trying to do online stuff and optimizing for keywords, just because you have someone's full undivided attention and they want to talk to you. Whereas if they're just scrolling through a news feed, they don't care. They're always being sold to anyway. There's no way to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And going back to, you know, those when you were talking about those authors that, you know, can churn out 4 to 5 books a year, you write, you know, science fiction, fantasy. So obviously that's going to be a lot more in depth, and your books are obviously going to be a lot larger than what some of these people who are churning out 4 to 5 books a year, you know, like a lot of them, these romance novels and stuff. Not Rebecca Cassells, of course. We love Rebecca Cassells. Not referring to you, but I'm talking about the romance novels with the guy on the front with no shirt on and the woman draped around his leg. You know, they're tiny, and you know the fact, and they're pretty much. And I don't mean to offend any romance writers. They're pretty much all the same.
They're a bit cookie cutter,
pretty much just, you know, a guy meets a girl, they do it a lot and fall in love. And, you know,
which is what people sometimes want. That's fine.
100%. 100%. My wife's mum absolutely loves those books, and she will devour them like they're the greatest writings of the history, you know. But when you're writing, obviously you're writing sci-fi fantasy, you know, you've got world building, you've got lore, you've got a lot more goes into that. So
Mm.
I can completely understand why you're not churning out 4 to 5 books a year when you're
Yeah.
writing fantasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
We want to jump quickly into this question because you did come recommended by Amy Cormack. Feel we have to ask you the Amy Cormack question. Maps in books, yay or nay?
Oh yeah, this is what I have been asked this before as well by other people as well. I I say nay. Temporarily for now. So the reason why I haven't put any maps in my books, it's to do with the overall philosophy of kind of the magic system in the books. It's
Yeah.
about expectations and preconceived notions sometimes. So if you open up a book and the first page is a map, you know where the book is going to go generally. Like you have an
That's true.
expectation of the journey that you're going to go on. You know the scope of it before you've actually had a chance to touch the words. And so I haven't actually put any maps in my books because I don't want people to have those expectations. I don't want
Yeah.
things to feel grounded, and I don't want kind of the environment to be so stuck down so early on. I want to be able to have a reveal, have it unfold, have it expand in the future. However, the problem I'm running up on is that the next series I'm going to start writing, also set in this world, which means I do have to commit to the bit. It's about cartographers, it's about map makers.
Oh.
So I feel like if you write a book about map makers and you don't include a map, that's it just kind of it doesn't feel thought through, it doesn't feel like the right decision to do. So I am eventually going to have to get there, but in general I steer away from them personally.
But you could just subvert people's expectations on that book about cartographers and just not have a map there, and they'll be like expecting a map, and they'll pick your book up and go, "Wow, this is a book about map makers, and there's no maps in here."
No map.
That's more intriguing to me.
I'd need to have another twist after that. I think I'd need to have a map hidden somewhere within the pages as well. Like you'd have to find it, you'd have to search for it.
Like that blue light trick, invisible ink.
Yeah. That would be good.
Or this is what I do just to be a complete a-hole, is keep alluding to there is going to be a map. And then keep sucking them in, and then it's
somewhere. It's somewhere.
Just down the bottom under the page number, just right. It's coming. Yeah. And on every page, it's almost there. We're almost there. And then you get to the last page and just go, psych.
Yeah. It's like there will be a map on the last page, and then you go to the last page and it says last page missing. Something.
Yeah, last page is intentionally left blank.
Oh, then you're asking for like a National Treasure Nicolas Cage style movie to find the last page of the book that.
And then you can write a whole book on that.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
Maybe you can format all the pages in such a way that if you rip them all out and arrange them on the floor in a certain way, that makes the map.
Yeah.
I think that would be too much trouble. I think there would be more trouble than that. I'm just going to put in a normal map.
There's people out there that would do that. I guarantee you there are people in the world that would do that. If you alluded to that, they will do it.
I feel like maybe I should allude to that even though I haven't put it in there. Like get people to try and do it anyway.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan. I think maybe we should start putting maps in the back of books.
Yeah, right? Like it's there if you want to reference it, like a glossary.
Yeah, it's like when I wrote my book, shameless self-plug, Letters from the Emu War, I had a whole emu terminology. So when I first published myself, I put the terminology in the back, like glossary. So you read through it and then things don't always fully make sense. Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? And then you can go to the back of the book and go, oh, this is what term is. But they wanted to put it in the front of the book, But yeah.
I think that that's not a good thing, because if you put it at the front of the book, you're reading all that terminology out of context, and then you're going through the book, and then I would forget anyway if I read it in the beginning of the book and getting to the end. Every time a word comes up, I go, oh shit, I have to go back to the start of the book again.
Yeah.
I think the back of the book's the place for it, and I think you're right. Maybe put the maps at the back of the book.
Yeah, I think that might be the way. Yeah.
I think, or just do a very vague map, you know what I mean? Like from memory, it's been a while since I've actually picked up my copies of Lord of the Rings, but from memory, the map wasn't super detailed in the initial, or maybe I could be wrong. Maybe I could be thinking of something else, another book, but without giving anything away, because So that makes sense, not putting mapping because you don't want the reader to know where you're going, and it more encourages them to read the book. I agree with that.
Mm.
Cool. Well, let's dive into your actual book series. So, like you said, when did the idea come to you? Do you remember where you were? Um,
Yeah, I was at home, as you know I usually am. I don't think it's an important thing about place. I think it was circumstance which made
yeah,
the idea happen. So the aforementioned book that all teenagers write that should never be read,
yeah.
um, I'd finally decided it isn't working. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to
Mm,
burn it all and bury it and be done with it. And then the next day, that's how the idea came up. So I wanted to write something set in the desert. I wanted to write something, set in that kind of environment I described before. And I like this almost idea of having the entire old book just be buried by sand. And so there's
yeah,
little to no remnant of that old book now in what I've write today. But it was that concept of time moving forward so rapidly over so much time that everything does get buried. So that's how you end up with all those buried skyscrapers, all those
yeah.
forgotten relics and stuff that no one understands anymore. And that's kind of how it came about. And I toyed with that idea for a long while. And the thing I was writing, which eventually came this one, so the Hythera Redux,
Cool.
that it took many iterations to figure it out because it is has a big vibe of Avatar Last Airbender. So it's a boy last of his kind out of time. But the problem was I didn't know how to make the main character stick to the present to the present story. So it took me many years to actually figure out how to write that. And in the meantime, I actually wrote another book, and here's the other plug. So that's Molten Flux. So that's a mutiny aboard a walking fortress of scrap metal. So that's a bit more violent and Mad Maxy. So those two projects ended up being kind of ready to go at the same time when I was ready to publish. And so I decided I'd publish them both and alternate writing between the series. So because they're set in the same world and being 30 years apart, being their own separate stories, I've still gone and planted all these Easter eggs about a larger story, all these hints towards it throughout the book. So depending on the order in which you read them, you'll get them all in a different order. It'll change your interpretations of the characters and the plots in the book. So I've been real tricky about that. And again, that's why I love self-publishing. I don't think a traditional publisher would have let me do something that
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, like it's very deserty. There's plenty of that, and like one of the main things is that like, there was a magical event like thousands of years before when the books are set, where all the water was essentially magicked out of the air, only to be breathed in, and so
Oh, wow.
essentially there's no problem about oh shit, I'm out of water, I'm getting thirsty, which
Yeah.
is a very common one for a lot of desert-based books. I didn't want to do that. But I've still tied the magic system to getting water anyway, and the only
Yeah.
place to get it is under those skyscrapers. So there's this constant kind of cycle, this give and pull of having to go into these dangerous places. So that's the kind of inspiration that I took. That's the kind of cycle that I wanted to follow in these books.
Awesome. So people are like camels in a
Almost,
way.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
thankfully they don't look like it.
No, yeah, no.
But yeah, it's something where I just wanted to put water aside from the
Yeah.
plot because again, like it just becomes so focused on water, and I feel
Yeah.
like you just lose kind of the essence of the actual story
Yeah.
there.
Because people would just keep asking like, where's the water?
Where's the
Like,
water? Don't care.
It's just
It's not part of it.
it's just like one of our friends, Chris. He says he can't understand why people in Mad Max use all these muscle cars when
Yeah,
when they use so much fuel. You
it's
know,
cool, man.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
why.
I know
Shut
it's
up.
cool. I know it's cool, but like it's like the resource. You know, um,
That's it. It's about putting on a show.
I think a good thing about that, and I love stories where the event itself happened thousands of years ago. Like
mm,
I'm a big fantasy reader, and I'm a big
Mm.
fan of a fantasy writer called David Eddings, and his story, The Belgariad, which is set in the now, but events that happened thousands of years before. But that it leaves you open to be able to write a prequel about that actual. Is that something you've thought about doing? Writing
It's
a book on the actual event
the actual
itself.
event. Yeah, so in a way, right? So there's like kind of three distinct time periods I need to deal with. There's the present for the Droughtlands, there's the past for the Hythero Empire, which is the people that boy came from. So they were the people that could bring rain to the Droughtlands. And then there's a third time period. So that's the people who left behind all those skyscrapers, and they call them those of glass. So those are three very distinct periods. And every time I write one of these books, I need to think about how all those things into play, how all those things kind of conflict with each other, how their history kind of influences the present. But I don't think I'd write a story set in those earlier times because a lot of the
Okay.
power that comes from those times is the mystery, those little hints that you see through where you glean something so much bigger than what's immediately obvious on the surface. So I could never expose that. It would be wrong of me to do so.
No, that I completely get it. Some authors
Mm.
do and some authors don't. And I've kind of, because I'm not a writer myself, I kind of always wondered, what authors' takes are on that because,
Mm.
David Eddings does take you back in and does write books about that. And then I do agree with what you're saying. Some of the magic of that initial story that I love so much is kind of gone because I know about what happened thousands and thousands of years ago in great detail. It's
Yeah,
okay
exactly.
to reference a base. Yeah, okay, cool. That's where I have different questions to what Jamie has because none of my questions that I come up with are on the sheet that we send you because I
Yeah.
just come up with them as we
Yeah.
talk.
No, I
And
like that. I like that.
yeah, so some of my questions might not make sense, but
No.
as I said, there's no filter between that and that. So
Yeah.
No, I love it.
No, well, I always mention in our emails there will be tangents, so that's
yeah,
which
I'm a fan.
I love doing because it's just like it's more of a conversation than what is your favorite? I mean, it starts like that, but
Yeah,
just to
we
break the
get
ice.
there. We get
I
there.
know that. But what's your world building process like? Like,
Yeah.
did you start writing um a basic little story and building a world around it, or were you like, this is my world, throw stuff in it?
Yeah, no, it's more the former. So I only world build as far as I can kind of reach with my fingers in the story in a sense.
Yeah,
Like I won't world I don't world build into the future. I don't world build too far into the past because again, it's one of those things, both things need to remain a mystery. Both things
yeah,
need to remain fluid for me as well as I go about and write all these kind of slowly interlocking series as they all come together. So yeah, it's something where I don't think that I'd ever sit down and just world build entire things. I don't see the point of trying to plot
yeah,
down all these cities and all these politics that aren't going to be relevant to the
yeah,
story. I think it's a bigger thing to find out on the way. Like the finales of these books, like I mean, I do have an outline, do have a plot outline,
yeah,
but every time I hit the finale, I just buckle up and see where it takes me. Like
yeah.
there's entire sequences where for 40 or 50,000 words, I've got no idea what's going on. It's just happening to me.
Awesome. Yeah,
And the problem that comes in the editing is that I need to go back and plug all that back in. And I'm always pleasantly surprised to find there's all this accidental foreshadowing
yeah,
coming towards what I end
yeah.
up writing anyway. So it's quite a relief, to be honest with you, because I always am worried I'm just going to have to rip out the first half of the book and rewrite it. But that hasn't happened so far.
yeah, yeah. No, you're a lot like me. Because I point like the one I'm working on now. I've pinpointed events like key moments in that, and I'm just pantsering between it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
it. Yeah.
even the chapter I'm working on now, I've just created this new character. Like, I love this character. Like, it's just
See where this goes. Yeah.
I didn't sit down and go, I'm gonna make a character like this. I just, where's it going? Cool character. Um, that's just how I write because I'm reasonably new to it.
Mm.
Um, only recently learnt the term pantsering. It's just
Yeah. No, it's the way to do it, to be honest with you. I
yeah,
think that's the only way to make something kind of genuine.
yeah, that's it.
When we were talking about, the period where you did write full time, this is always a question I have for the authors. Were you able to sort of say, okay, for the next 4 hours, I'm just going to write, and it just came to you, or were you just more like a person, okay, it's coming to me now, I'm going to sit down and write and see how it goes?
It's a bit of both, to be honest with you. Like sometimes
Okay.
it is coming to me and I need to do it. Like I find if I am in those moments where I have been controlled by the inspiration, I won't write the scenes in order. I'll like start a chapter and I'll jump back and forth between paragraphs and then
Oh,
start
wow.
wiring in together all the different gaps that I've made. But at the same time, I did and I still do have a pretty good tendency to be able to sit down and just go, I'm going to churn out a chapter now. I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to put on my Smashing Pumpkins albums. I'm going to churn out a couple chapters. Like I think if I'm running real hot, I can get like 6 or 7,000 words down in a day. I think my best number still is about 10,000
Oh,
words in a
wow.
day,
Wow.
which is just and like it's not even like writing for the full day. Sometimes like the pace of it will hit me like at about 11 p.m. Sorry, 11 a.m. Thankfully not PM, and I'll go until about 5. So yeah, I sometimes I think there have been times where I punched about 9 or 10,000 words down in
Yeah.
about 6 hours, and it hurts.
Yeah.
I've got this.
Yeah.
My keyboard's actually one of these crazy split keyboards,
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
nice.
so it's extra ergonomic. And like the way it's kind of tented upwards and the way the keys are arranged are better for you, but it's a hell of a racket. My wife says it's like listening to a machine gun go off in the other room. 6 hours, yeah.
Now,
So I think you can expect a bit of arthritis and RSI in the fingers.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm really doing the double whammy for myself because the other thing I'm into is bouldering. So like the indoor rock climbing where you don't even have a
Oh,
rope.
yeah.
So like you're constantly kind of clinging
Yeah.
onto the wall with like little holds that are like that. So
yeah,
I think by the time I'm 40, I'm gonna have like fused finger joints or something.
you're gonna have the
oh,
hands of
definitely.
Alex
as-
Honnold. What's
Arnold, oh yeah, free
you know
solo
him?
man,
Yeah,
right?
dude,
Yeah,
that
God,
was a hard watch.
that was a
Um,
tough watch, right?
yeah.
Scary, man. What a crazy guy.
Yeah, but he did it. He did
He
it.
did it. I wouldn't. Fuck that.
For those playing at home, free solo on Disney Plus. Check it out. It's a guy who climbed El Capitan in California, free solo, no
Like
ropes.
a kilometer, it's 2 kilometers or something.
I think it
Up.
was a 3.5 hour, 4 hour climb.
It's a
Oh,
big
wow.
climb.
And he had to start in the dark because the rock would get too hot at a certain time. And
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And like, if you come off, you've got plenty of time to think about what went wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
My takeaway from
Yeah.
that doco was him doing chin ups in his van with like 2 fingers or whatever, just finger pull ups.
And that was afterwards, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, all right, warm down time.
Anyway, segue over.
And do you find that you get lost in the story when you're writing it and you sort of everything else kind of fades away and you're just writing and you've got no concept of time or anything like that? Do you ever have times where that happens to you?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like if I'm in a good flow state, it just happens, and I'm just gone to the world. Like I get really upset if someone interrupts me if I'm in that state. But like I both get lost in the flow of it, and then I have a phrase for myself of being lost in the source.
I think that's a really good, really good characteristic to have if you're a writer, because I wish I could write. I just don't have the patience for it.
Yeah, it's
But
a
when
patience
when
game.
I read, or like when I, for example, if I get I don't say if, I say when I get your book, I will literally just zone, because I'm hearing impaired. So if I take my hearing aids off, I can't hear anything else around me, which is amazing. So I can just literally sit there with it on my tablet or in person, and I'll just be in that world. And it's happened sometimes, when I'm gaming or when I'm reading comics, that my wife will be calling my name. She'll be like, Ryan. And I can't hear, not because I haven't got my hearing aids on, but, she'll have to physically come over and touch me to get me out of that world. And I wish I could write, because I feel like I would be like that.
You'd be so locked in,
that world. But I can't. I've tried writing short stories before and they've come out okay, but I just can't commit myself, because if I write a book, it will be like a big one.
It's going to be a thick one, yeah.
And I can't, even the thought of it just makes me anxious.
Yeah,
So,
no, I understand
I
that.
really wish I could. Like, I wish I had the talent that you guys have, seriously, because I would absolutely love to be a writer. But I get to talk to writers all the time, which is good. And I get to read all their books. So bonus.
Yeah, I gotta say, my dirty secret is I don't read that much.
Yeah,
Because like I'll sit down to read
Yeah.
and I'll go, oh, I could be writing. Better go right.
That's it. Yeah.
But that's the thing, like you guys, it's like
Sucks.
it's not your full-time job, but like it's your job.
It's
a
how our
hobby,
brains
but,
are
like,
wired,
it's
right?
your job. And if you're writing books all day, every day, you're not really going to want to finish that and then read for a little while. Whereas I don't write, so I absolutely love reading.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything. So I can imagine that being the case, because Jamie told me it takes him a long time to read a book. Where, as I said, like we had an author on here, probably not last year, the year before, who did a series based around a young kid who sort of joined the mob and all that kind of stuff. Really well written. And I was in hospital late last year in June, and I didn't have internet for 2 days. And I thought, what am I going to do? I had his books down on my tablet to read, and they were probably about 300 pages each, and I literally smashed them both in like 3 days.
That's amazing.
And so that's what I mean. I can get in that world. I can devour
Yeah.
them when there's no distractions around. But
Yeah.
I can understand that you guys, don't really like reading or because it's your
Can't do
job.
it.
It's like what you're doing 90% of the time.
There's a Jimmy Carr joke where he wonders if a stripper comes home from dancing all day and goes, great, more work, when they have to get in the
Yeah.
shower and take off the clothes.
Oh, I love Jimmy Carr. He's
What a guy.
not many
He pays
people like
taxes
him.
now. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, seriously, like he the fact that he can just do the one-liners, bang, 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 bang. His laugh gets me, man.
Rare
Like
thing,
it's
yeah.
like, like it's just he's
That's
just
it.
such a good comedian. But like, a
Yeah.
lot of people don't like the one-liners. Like they like
I
people
love
telling
him.
their
I
life
like a
story.
story. Yeah, some people like
But
stories.
I
don't they?
absolutely, anytime a new Jim Carr special comes out, I'm all over that. Seriously.
Nice.
That's why I like Dimitri Martin. He's all about the one lines. Just one line. One
Yeah.
line. Doesn't always land, but like a lot of them are gold,
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Um, speaking of gold, so which book is the first book in your series? Like,
See,
or the,
I love this question. This is the complicated question. So, technically, this is what I published first.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is the story I started writing first. And here
Oh.
comes the complicated bit. They're both first books. You can start with either one and bounce
Okay.
between them.
Yeah.
So I wrote them both in that way intentionally. So you both are an introduction to the world. The next book that I'm going to write after I finish the one I'm working on, it will be another book one, another introduction to a different bit of the world. And it's something I've talked about with a couple of other authors. Like the strategy is to have as many ins for people to come at to get into the world. So instead of publishing like a big 8-book series,
Yeah.
there's the Flux books are going to be a trilogy. The Hythero books are a set of 5 once I eventually get them done. And yeah, so there's just going to be all these different places you can get into. And again, because I talked earlier about all those Easter eggs I've weaved in, you can read each series on their own and go through them, or you can bounce between them and you find out different things about different aspects of the world in different orders just to mess you up as well.
Nice. So does that mean like, so you got a Flux trilogy and does that
The
mean
Hythero books, yeah.
yeah, is that going to be like you have to read one before the other kind of thing, or they just standalone trilogy?
Oh, within each series, yes. Please read them in order.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, please do that.
I was just checking.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I do know some authors who do kind of, it's a series of standalones.
Yeah.
And like you can tackle them in any order. But no, I do write them in order within the series. So you should do that.
Yeah. No, I was just verifying,
It's a good question though.
Yeah.
It's one of the main ones I feel like if I'm at a market. It's one of my the performances I put on what you saw there, because that really entices people in. They get interested by that. And then the strategy is that instead of picking whether or not they read a book, they're picking between one or the other. So they don't really kind of mentally have a walk away option in their heads.
Yeah. And you can always say, oh, just buy both.
Just buy both. Exactly.
Buy both, yeah.
It's great.
Nothing wrong with buying both.
It always works.
Yeah. Speaking of buying both, Amy told us that you had a pretty successful like weekend away. Like you did a book stall and got a big bookstall haul.
So
tell us about that.
I've had a couple of them actually. So I only started doing in-person events middle of last year. I did the Supernova in Sydney, which is your big nerd convention.
Yeah.
And I shared a table with 2 other authors, with Louise Holland and Joshua Walker. I think Josh has been on here before as well.
Yeah, we know Josh.
So there was 3 of us on a 2-meter table, so it was a bit cramped. But that was a really good one. That was a good taste of it. But I still wanted to do more because I just saw how successful it was. And again, like moving paperbacks is easier and kind of more satisfying than moving an ebook. So
100%.
There's a local market down in Wollongong, which is now called the Up Market. It's for kind of handmade, art crafted goods, etc. and so forth. But through my wife, I happened to know the person running it, and I asked, "Hey, would you mind if I came and set up a stall and sold my books?" And that was phenomenal. I sold 100 books in a weekend there, and I thought that was the record breaker for me. Wow. But there's another market in Canberra, which goes for 3 days in December, called Handmade Canberra, and I sold 200 there.
Wow.
So I was just blown away by that, and it kind of cemented in my head like this should be the strategy. I should just sell them straight to people like this.
Yeah.
And so I've been kind of orienting myself for this year to attend as many markets as possible. and just sell there. But it's really powerful. People are really amazed to meet an author in person.
Yeah.
There were so many people who just said, I'd never met an author. And it's really weird going from this online bubble that we live in where we're always talking about and two authors to people going, oh, you write the books.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be very successful.
Yeah. Did you like completely underestimate how much you'd sell? Like, did you have only a certain amount of books there and you're like, oh crap, I'm out? Or
Yeah, so for that Canberra one, I came in with 230 books and I sold 206. So
wow.
Oh wow!
it was a very light carload to take home once I was done. It was, I was worried about running out, but like I almost got there. So
but do you have like a QR code and all that in case you do?
I
do
have that stuff. I was ready for that, and I think I nearly sold out of one of my books as well. Like I only had one left by the end of the event.
Wow.
When it started with about 40 of them. It was just insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
That must have been really cool for yourself, like to know that, okay, I've sold 200 books in one weekend. I must be doing something right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's awesome, man. While we were talking, I just went on Amazon and found all your books. Pretty much all of them except one of them is on Kindle Unlimited. So I'm a Kindle Unlimited, obviously, because of the amount of books I read.
Yeah, you got
that. So if our listeners are on Kindle Unlimited, and you can pick them up on Kindle Unlimited and also paperback as well. So definitely, I've got 4 of them, so I'm looking forward to diving into.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have a 5th coming out soon.
And
awesome, no, that's really good, man. Because you've got Molten Flux and Blazing Flux.
Yep, so that's the 3rd book will be coming out for that, and that'll finish the series.
So you are going to keep it as a trilogy, yeah?
It's going to be a trilogy, and then it's done. Like, I mean, it was almost bittersweet writing the end of it, because I was just like, that's it. I can never revisit this kind of spot of story again, because it's just done.
One of the questions I always like to ask our authors, and I'm really impressed by your covers of your books. Now, I like the way that with the Flux series, I really like the look of those in terms of you're keeping with that orangey red color. I'm all about colors, obviously, because I've read comics my whole life, and I can fall in love with a panel even if there's no words on it. So do you do your own covers, or do you have someone that you contract to do your covers, or is it the same person who does them all, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's been the same person doing them. So if you want to look him up on Instagram, it's kfrancis.art. So he does his own really cool series of post-apocalyptic works, and that's kind of how I found him. Like I saw him, and we got talking about that and about the Stalker games as well, because we both kind of really love that stuff. So we really connected over that. And so he's been really great about kind of just those color tones that are really signature to my books, and again, especially for Molten Flux, because it's about a walking fortress. So that's what you're seeing on the cover. Getting that huge hunk of machinery brought to life was a hell of a thing, and I was really happy with how he did it. And so it's been one of the really distinctive things about my books. And again, it's something else I find at markets and stuff. People see those big orange book covers and come over just to have a look and talk about those.
Yeah, and I think if you can get the same guy or the same person, I should say, to do all of your covers, they just like the Flux books popped at me.
Yeah, exactly.
They just, when I saw them on Amazon, it just popped at me. The is it Hythara?
Perfect.
Yeah, the Hythara Redux book, and then the Origin book. The Redux book actually grabbed me because it does remind me a lot of some of the covers on the David Eddings books that I like. Nothing like it, but it's just the feeling of it. And so that grabbed me personally because I'm a fan of David Eddings. But the Flux books grabbed me because I was like,
wow, it's the color orange. We're hard coded for it,
Yeah.
And we're Australians. We need to see that orange.
It looks. I want to know more about it. Obviously we've talked to you and you've explained it, but I want to dive into that because of the cover, and you've got to take that into account, because when it's in a bookstore or whatever, the cover is what's going to draw the people in, and then you can explain and talk about the book. But the cover is always going to grab you. You know what I mean? And I think that artist that you've got does amazing work, because both of those series just jumped right at me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna.
That's
And
awesome
I
to
hadn't
hear.
looked at them until we spoke about them, so
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, cool. I'm all about that.
Awesome.
So how much back and forth was there like on the cover design? Did you just go, this is the kind of gist I want, or were you like, this is specifically what I want, and you know?
Yeah, I'm usually fairly kind of specific. And he was really good because he toned down kind of my expectations. He was say like, he's got a good eye for design, and he was like kind of doing because I'd send him off some sketches, and he kind of overlay on them to kind of explain like design principles about like a rule of threes, or like kind of the triangle with a kind of viewer's eye of how they'll perceive things.
Yeah.
And so he was really good in kind of like molding what my initial vision was into something that was going to be that enticing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a decent bit of back and forth. I think like each cover, it happened over the course of a couple of months. I'm not to say he's working slow; he's got other shit on, and so have I. But that there were a couple iterations to get it to that kind of final stage as well. So he was really good about consulting about the shape of things, and then a lot of the color tones, and then kind of fixing up all those fine details.
Well, he definitely does really good, really good work. So I think, we definitely give him a plug, and I think Jamie can put his details in the show notes and stuff like that.
No, well, funny enough, before I even reached out to you to come on, he messaged me.
Oh, really?
And he's just like going, I saw you an author, if you ever need any artwork done. And now I'm going like, well, it might actually suit my next book,
It would.
But mine would be more, it wouldn't be orange, it'd be more it would be a combination of dark and bright. Like,
no, he does good with that. Don't worry.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I've looked up his stuff, and I'm going like, well, look, I'm nowhere near cover
ready. Yeah.
Cover ready. I have pretty much designed I've got a, what do you call it? Like a concept. I've done all the concept.
Got a mood board kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I know what it's going to be. I know what I want it to be. I've got my niece modeling the main character for me, so
that's pretty handy.
We're even gonna do a short film to go alongside it.
Oh, nice.
Just do this is the world kind of thing. In case someone wants to make a movie on it, just saying.
Yeah. I will side tangent. I do sometimes have people come up to markets and like, we'll talk about it for a bit, and they'll go, "Oh, you should make a movie."
Yeah.
And it's like, how?
Well,
I have started saying to them, "Do you know someone? Is that why you're saying that?"
No. Well, we do have a mutual friend called Matthew Holmes who makes movies. But he's probably really busy. But
yeah, I reckon so.
But he loves Australia. Like, he makes really good Australian films with Australian themes. His last movie, I've mentioned it a million times. It's a shark movie set in the 1940s.
That's awesome.
There's gangsters, like, really cool old school diving team, with the screw-on helmets. And
yeah.
Got to go retrieve this gangster's gold from a river, and there's a bull shark in there.
Great.
And it's
that's
just like
so good.
He loves doing period stuff, but I'm, Mad Max with magic might be right up his alley.
Yeah, we got plenty of deserts, man. Wouldn't have to go too far.
All right, so we got the director. Who do you see playing your characters from your book?
I don't really fan cast things, to be honest with you. Yeah, because like I mean, I'm not good at connecting faces to names, so like it's a hard thing to kind of think about. Like, as far as directing goes, like I mean, the dream is to get George Miller to direct it, because he's already making Mad Max, right?
Yeah.
And like I'd be very happy to have Chris Hemsworth involved, as if that would happen, because he did fantastic work in Furiosa too.
Yeah.
Denis Villeneuve, who did the Blade Runner 2049. Get Nolan to do it. Why not? I mean, we're just being eye in the sky. But I think it's just, as far as directors go, I think that's the main thing I've fan cast about, like, who I'd want to have do it, or like how I want the music to sound. Because I feel like there's particular things about these books where they'd need to happen in a certain way. Someone would need to understand the kind of concept and philosophy behind the book. You couldn't just give it to Michael Bay and just say go for it. But again, at the same time, I think that would be pretty cool. I think Michael Bay could figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in saying that, would you want to make, say for example, with each book, would you want it to be just a really like a 3-hour epic, or would you much rather something like an Apple TV series or a Netflix TV series? Maybe not Netflix, because whenever anything gets good,
canned after one season.
So Apple TV is more, and they've got the budget too because they've got some big name stars in
Crazy
their
budgets,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, when I saw Bill Lawrence's, had Harrison Ford, I know he's getting on, but I mean he's
Getting money for that.
coming out in Captain America next week as well. You know what I mean? Like,
Jesus.
would you prefer it to be an Apple TV show or like just a 3-hour epic for each book?
I think I'd still go movie, to be honest with you. Like I write these things like it's one of these things like when I'm writing, like I can see the scenes in my mind's eye. Like that's how I kind of drive the pattern of the prose is like drawing attention from one thing to another as they come relevant or as I want the reader to see them. So I think I'd still go a movie. I always have a problem with like books getting adapted into TV shows. I think the pacing between the episodes gets screwed up because the end of every episode is always a hook to get into the next episode. If there's meant to be a slow moment there or a quiet moment, it almost can't happen. So yeah, I'd definitely go movie.
Yeah. So just quickly, while I think of it, another tangent question.
Oh boy.
So you don't read much. I don't read much. Where do you get your influence from with your writing in that? Like, because mine comes from movies and TV. Like two of my favorite writers is Eric Kripke and Bill Lawrence. So I kind of model my writing off them just from watching that stuff. But like, do you get your style from books or ideas from books or movies or TVs? Like, how do you go about it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, like the actual prose style itself, like that's a hard thing because I think about that. Like I grew up reading a lot of Matthew Riley, so whenever it comes to action, I feel like I'm really influenced by him. Like, because again, he's Michael Bay on the page. It's fantastic. But as far as kind of the greater prose of it, it's just something that's kind of developed for me over the years. It's I guess all writers need to keep practicing and keep doing it, but I feel like it's just something that keeps kind of happening towards me. Like a lot of the inspiration for things and concepts and themes in my books, they don't necessarily come from movies and TV shows, but more from like concepts or phenomena that you see around. Like in Blazing Flux, there's I describe it as kind of this Chernobyl disaster of an incident, and that's what the book was heavily inspired by, like the cleanup process of that. And so it's inspired by those kinds of things. Like you'll see all kinds of weird references and concepts in there. So yeah, that's where I'll draw a lot of the inspiration from rather than an actual book itself.
Yeah, cool.
And Jamie, I noticed you mentioned couple of podcasts before that you took a lot of inspiration for your current book from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Right? Do you get any inspiration from any games you might be playing towards your particular books?
Sometimes I don't know. What I mean, I've gone back to play a lot of MechWarrior 5 lately because I like my big robots. Horizon Zero Dawn surprisingly is one of the games that I haven't gotten around to playing. One, because I don't have a PlayStation. Two, because I feel like it's almost a bit too similar to what I'm writing at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sometimes it's the games, but yeah, more often than not, it's just this thing that comes into my head, and I think that would be cool. That's a big C, and I want to grind towards that. I want to make it happen.
And that's my problem with reading books because I'll read a book and then an idea will come to me. And then I've got to put the book down because I've got to write down the idea.
Exactly.
It kind of loses momentum when when you're doing that. And that's why I'm glad I'm not a writer because I don't have that issue because
it's not a problem
that would annoy me and I would stop reading.
It is annoying.
But
I've got a lot of half-finished books on the shelf for that.
Yeah. Just curious because myself and Jamie are big gamers. I've we've got PS5s, but I've kind of moved over to PC gaming while I'm not home. I'm very lucky to have a computer where I can pretty much play. I just finished playing God of War Ragnarok again, so it's pretty high end. So I can play pretty much anything. So Jamie will actually be happy. I've actually started playing Horizon Zero Dawn as of last night, so we'll actually finish it this time.
Beautiful.
But yeah, I don't know why I stopped playing it initially, but maybe because I've got the time now. I was like, okay, I can dedicate a solid, 3 or 4 hours a day to gaming.
Yep.
But yeah, I funnily enough, what got me into it was I played the Lego version. I absolutely love the Lego games. Like I love the
great.
Lego Batman, Lego Marvel.
It's comfortable, those ones.
And earlier this year, they released Lego Horizon Zero Dawn. And I thought, okay, cool. I played all the others. I haven't played this. And I started playing it and I was like, when I finish this, I'm actually going to play the proper,
Do the real
like
thing,
the
yeah.
real game, and obviously that's going to take me a lot longer to finish. But yeah, it's Sony games are coming out on PC a little bit faster each time, but we're still like Marvel. Spider-Man 2 just came out, just dropped on PC, like a couple of days ago, and it was out like a year and a half ago on PS5. But we're getting there. We're slowly but surely getting there. You know, a little bit quicker each time. But I just wondered, yeah, because if you had any inspiration from any games, because I know a lot of writers draw
Yeah, take it from
inspiration
games, right?
from from TV or from game. I mean, we live in the era now which you can stream pretty much anything. So I thought it would obviously Mad Max would be a big one for you. You know,
Definitely.
which
Yeah.
one's your favorite Mad Max movie? Or out of the initial three, the original three?
The initial three
Mhm.
has to be the first one, like it's the
Yeah.
first one. Like the first one's not like entirely within kind of the apocalypse yet, but like
Yeah.
it's just such a good origin story, and like it's so raw, like you can really feel it. Like that's all I can say about it. You feel it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I had only watched Beyond Thunderdome
Mm.
up until about 5 years ago because my dad absolutely loves the Mad Max movies. It's his favorite movies of all time.
Mm.
And he bought the three collection on Blu-ray, like 1, 2, and Beyond Thunderdome. And he said, "Oh, do you want to watch it?" So we sat down and watched the first one. And you're right, it's the first one is kind of like a very basic movie because of the time. Because there's
Yeah,
only a few actors in it, it's not really over the top, like Beyond
low
Thunderdome is.
low budget, yeah, as
Yeah,
well. Like they didn't have
100%.
much money to
Yeah,
work with.
exactly. But it was actually good. It drew me in. And then obviously, I've seen them all since, with the new ones with Fury Road and Furiosa and all that. But I agree with you about the first one. And Mad Max is a series that does get better with the sequels, which are, very few and far in between.
Yeah,
But I thought seeing as that a big basis of, some of your books, I thought, which one
yeah,
is
it's,
it? I can
it's a
agree
good
with the
question.
first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Do you see yourself breaking away from this series at any point? Do you have any other ideas in the works, or are you just going to stick to this
Well, I mean,
Droughtlands?
like, I wouldn't be an
Yeah.
author without like having other stuff I'm
Yeah.
playing with. Like, there's like bits and pieces of stuff that I've written. Like, there's this I got this spacefaring sci-fi thing
cool.
of essentially a smuggler who accidentally comes upon the space equivalent of a nuclear bomb, like a star in a jar is basically
Oh
what it
wow.
is. Like, it's one of those, oh shit, I shouldn't have this kind of stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I'd say for now I'm staying in the Droughtlands
Yeah.
because again, after it with these two series, I've got another two series planned for it as well. So it's about 14 books in total to
Wow.
bounce between in the setting, and there'll be more eventually. I'm sure I won't stop coming back to it, but yeah, I don't think in the near future I'm going anywhere else, but maybe one day.
Cool.
This is another question, as I said, not related to this, it goes back. You know how we were talking about, when you were writing full time, how long would it actually take you to get the book ready so it would be ready for editing, so to speak? So how long would it roughly take you to write a book?
Yeah, so for a first draft, for just getting the words on the page, it was about 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Which again was pretty fast because the length of them was about 120,000 words, and
Wow.
Yeah.
there were in between, like in that time, I'd sometimes also have to take a break for a week or two to either edit the last book or to kind of sit down and go, all right, where am I going with this as well? So about 3 to 4 months to get through that. The edits would probably take another 4 or 5 months. Like I think Blazing Flux itself, I think that went from conception to being like ready to go in about 10 months total.
Wow. And for fantasy, that's very impressive.
It's fast. It was a very fast book to write. The most recent one I've been writing, this third Flux book, it took me longer just because it's come out about 25,000 words longer than I'd expected it to. So it's at 150,000 words, which is a big number, but there's still much bigger numbers out there. It's just big for me. And B, because like I had to stop in the middle for months just to figure out where it was going. Because I think what no one talks about is ending a series is really fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like you can't, you need to stop introducing new plot elements and new mysteries. You need to
Yeah.
start tying everything together. And like the philosophy that got me through it is to think to myself, like, all right, just play the hits. You know, if someone shows up to a band that they've loved for 20 years, they don't want to hear the new stuff, they want to hear the hits.
Yeah.
So like I started making all these illusions and all these mirrors to kind of stuff that happened in the first two books to, proverbially play the hits.
And that's good. And you are right. I can't imagine how hard it would be to like it's easy. Well, not easy, but like it's easier to write an ongoing series. But when you
Yeah.
know this is the end,
This
Yeah.
is it. Yeah.
yeah, and you're trying to think, and I suppose you've got people who are really fanatical. Like I used to be like that. I'm not anymore, but wanting everything to be wrapped up with
Yeah.
nothing left open. And so you've got to sort of call back to the first couple of books, going, hold on, did I ever
Where did
really
this
tie
go?
off
Yeah.
that? And that must be really, really hard sometimes, And obviously it would be a lot longer than the other books because you're
Just so
telling
much to
the
do.
finale.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to wrap everything up, and so do you find that you're constantly going back to the other two, going, hold on,
I have
did
to
I
leaf through it.
wrap this up or did I? Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. Like, I will constantly have like the other books open at reference pages to figure it out, and then I'll also have the Hythera books open because they happen 30 years after
Yeah.
the Flux books, or the Flux books happen 30 years before, depending on the perspective you want to take. Because I need to make sure that what happens here will link up with what will happen in the future as well.
Yeah.
It's a headache, to
It
say the
would be.
least.
Yeah. That's why I have the Bill Lawrence approach with Scrubs. Going
Yeah.
back to Scrubs. He knew what the ending was going to be as soon as he started writing it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like I don't know if I'll ever be able to write a series because I just kind of want to tell a story,
Yeah.
and
You
it's
just want to be done with it.
well, yeah, and then because the ideas that come in so fast for me, I'm like I want to get this done so I can move on to this one. Um,
And I
and
suppose that's something that you guys have to deal with regularly, right? Like it must take a lot to focus on what you're working on, having so many other ideas going, oh, yeah, next I'm going to work on this.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you've got the next series planned already.
yeah,
It must be so frustrating sometimes to, I need to
Have to
finish
stop.
working
Yeah.
on, need to finish this before I can start. You
It
know what
takes
I
a
mean?
great deal of restraint. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
painful to a point. Like I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Again, especially the way I've been doing it, bouncing between books. Like it just doesn't. It just means that like the focus is so shattered sometimes. But I do like bouncing between them because it means that the sequels do actually get more time to cook. Like if I
Yeah.
just went from one to the other in one series, I don't think they'd be as good as they were.
yeah,
I think that's a really good idea to have. I don't think I've heard of
Mm.
many authors doing that, having two series running, not in timeline, but like writing one and then one and then
Yeah.
one. I think that would be good for one, for your focus, two, and I don't mean any disrespect by this, but so you don't get sick of
No,
writing the
you're
same
right.
story all the time.
You're
Because I know
completely right.
I'm like that. If I sit down and watch a series, like for example, and Jamie, just keep your judgments to yourself. If I sit down to watch Supernatural, we
Yeah.
have Jamie and I have different opinions on it. Jamie says seasons 1 to 5 is the true Supernatural, and that's it. Whereas
then you just
I'm the kind of guy who I need to watch all of it.
I
But
agree
if
with
I sit
Jamie.
down
Like I
and
have
go-
watched all of it. I do agree with Jamie. It should have just stopped. Maybe after 6 even. I don't know, but
Well, I haven't
minute.
actually finished the whole thing yet, but
wow.
because I find that I watch, maybe 1 to 3 seasons, and then I'm like, I just
All
need
right, that's
something
enough
different.
of that. Yeah.
You know
I
what I mean?
agree
And I
with
can
you.
imagine that'd be the same for when you're writing.
Yeah,
You're
exactly
you're in
that.
that world so much, and then thinking, oh, I would hate for writers to get sick of that world. You know what I mean? Because something that we enjoy so much, it really depends on you guys and how much you enjoy writing in that world. So
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is probably, has that helped? Has that?
It does, yeah. It's a fantastic help because it means that I do get to explore all these alternate ideas. It does mean that like these other characters as well, like they get time to breathe because if I spend too much time with them in their heads, I don't see the outside perspective of them in a way. I don't get to come back to them and say, how have you changed? How have you grown since that last book?
Yeah.
Like what do you need to do here? Yeah.
No, I think a lot more writers should do that because that's why you get a lot of writers who will only stay at us. We're just going to stick to 2 books, or we're just going to when, for example, like with David Eddings, that I love about him, his series go for like 6 or 7 books, and they never feel like, oh, this has been rushed, or this is because he did the multiple writing things as well, and I think that's a brilliant thing to stop writer fatigue, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's a way to avoid writer's block too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense.
Because if you get stuck at some point, you can go to this one, and then you can focus on that one and then come back. Yeah.
The best way I've found out a writer's block, it's usually a problem with the direction of the story for me. So I just need to figure out how much of it I need to delete and then start again. So it is devastating at times to, like, I think the worst I've ever lost was about 20,000 words to go back and change the direction of the story. But just delete a chunk and start again.
That would be
horrifying, isn't it?
You've worked really hard on the 3,000 words and go, well, I'm going in a different direction.
Yeah.
It almost sounds as worse as when you accidentally delete it,
That's also happened.
Oh.
Yeah, it was painful. Not that much, thankfully, but still, yeah.
But you got that, no.
At least now we have technology, autosave kind of thing.
It was the autosave that got me. That was the problem. Like, I'd been working off Wi-Fi for a bit, and when I connected, it updated from the cloud to the computer instead of the other way around, and it was just gone. So, yeah, so since then, every time I have a good writing session, I make a copy of the file and put it in an archive. Yeah. So there's just a paper trail of shit there for me.
I copy mine straight to a hard drive.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just
has to be there.
Yep. Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
It's been a pleasure.
Plug yourself. Where can people buy your books? Where are your socials? Have you got a website? All that stuff. Plug away.
Yeah, so I got a website. It's jonathanweiss.com.au. You can buy my books through there as well. They come direct from me, and I'll sign them before I send them out as well. You can also find them on Amazon. They're on Kindle Unlimited. You can get them as ebooks. You can get them as paperbacks there as well. I don't sign those, unfortunately, because I don't live in Amazon's distribution warehouse. Sign up to my newsletter, because I think that's going to be the main way I'm getting things out now. There'll be a different rant about that coming in my blog post eventually. I also have an Instagram at John, JONW_author. I think that's it. And there you can follow me on Instagram as well and see other stuff I'm up to. But if you are wondering where to start, either Molten Flux or the Hythera Redux are both great starts for the series, and you can bounce between them. You can read them in just about any order you like, and it's going to be a rollicking good time.
Translation, buy them both.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, guys, thanks for listening. If you want to reach out, thetrueandthefictional@gmail.com. Check out our sponsors, Rebecca Cassells, Martin Kearns, and me. Buy my books over there. Yeah. They're fun. And we'll catch you next time.
See you next time.
See you guys.
In 1932, the Australian Army declared war on 20,000 emus and lost. It's a part of Australian history that not many know about. Maybe that's because history is written by those who win. So if you want to hear the full story of the Great Emu War of 1932, then check out my book, Letters from the Emu War. Read letters, newspaper articles, and journal entries. With every turn of the page, you will gain a deeper understanding of the life and times of emus at war. So head on over to jabryden.com and grab a signed copy today.